So in this video, I want to talk about how to optimize email deliverability in 2026. So we're going to go through infrastructure, list building, copywriting, and monitoring deliverability. And if you can get all of these right, your emails are going to land in the main inbox of your ideal targets consistently over time. So this is a very important aspect, of course, of running cold outreach. So the first part here is a little bit about the infrastructure. Now, there's a lot of different ways of setting up cold email infrastructure, and we've tried all of them here at ScaleSprint. So the best way we've really found to set this up is via just Google account resellers. So, instead of going through these like cheap private infrastructures, which is just going to burn immediately, you want to basically find a good Google reseller that you can acquire accounts from. So we use one specific one here at ScaleSprint that has been delivering really solid results over time. So if you want that introduction, you can reach out to me. But that's what we use for our infrastructure. You can also use some Microsoft as well. For example, the provider Hypertide is one option on the side of Microsoft, but we mostly just use Google these days. We haven't seen a huge advantage to using Microsoft really. As I mentioned, you want to avoid private infrastructure entirely. In my opinion, I just have never had real success with it. So for extra email deliverability protection, you want to set up two sets of infrastructure as I've illustrated here. So you essentially have your set A infrastructure, which is going to be actively sending cold emails. And then you're going to have the other set B, which is going to be in the warm-up pool. And then you switch them back and forth every 2 weeks. Now, the reason why you do this is because you want to basically have like one part of the infrastructure that doesn't really have the same like manual spam reports and things like that as the other part of the infrastructure. So essentially, like you're cutting spam reports in half by always having like one set of infrastructure not sending 50% of the time. And this is going to massively increase the longevity of your accounts because one of the most important factors for inboxing is actually the spam reports that you do get from recipients. And you can sort of decrease that because obviously if your emails are in a warm-up pool, they're not going to get any form of spam reports. So that's basically what I'd recommend on that side of things. Now, so when it comes to the warm-up itself, so before you actually start sending, the general rule is 2 to 4 weeks of warm-up. So you want to go through that. The more, the better. And it's also going to increase, again, the longevity of the accounts, the more warm-up they actually get. And in my opinion, you want to set up your warm-up reply rate to 70% or higher, just so you're getting as many replies as possible on the warm-up side of things. And even though that seems high, you're also sending cold emails, or you're going to send cold emails eventually, which is going to balance it out essentially. So you want to have a high reply rate on the warm-ups themselves. So that's kind of a little bit about the infrastructure here and how you want to go about setting that up. The next part is the campaign settings. So this is what you sort of modify within your sending tool, whether you're using Instantly or Smartly or Email Bison or something else. So one thing that's really important here is randomizing your sending intervals. So emails essentially go out in a natural human-like pattern. So a lot of people forget to do this, and then their emails are kind of going out in a very, very robotic way because you're not randomizing the sending intervals. And this, of course, from the point of the ESPs, which is the email service providers, it will look like you're a spam sender. So you don't want to do that. Tools like Instantly will allow you to do this. And you also want to disable open rate tracking and click tracking because both of them hurt email deliverability. Open rate tracking is inaccurate anyways, especially on Apple devices. It doesn't really work properly. The only exception I would make to tracking open rates and clicks would be if you have like a dedicated infrastructure specifically set aside for this kind of thing, right? So if you have like, let's say 20% of your infrastructure that is allocated specifically to, let's say like high intent campaigns where you want to track these things, then you can do that. But I would not do it for your larger volume campaigns. That would not be a good move. So that's a little bit about the campaign settings here. The next thing is around the list quality. So the more accurate your targeting actually is, the fewer manual spam reports you'll get and the better your email deliverability will be. So it's really important that your targeting is on point and your list is actually accurate. We do this here at ScaleSprint is we use a web scraper to basically pull company information from the website of every single lead, and then we run it through an LLM to basically qualify every lead against the criteria before we start sending any emails to that particular list. And this is going to make sure the targeting is more accurate, and the more accurate the targeting, the less manual spam reports and the better the email deliverability performance. Another thing is also email verification, which you definitely should know about if you're running cold outreach. We use Million Verifier for this purpose, and then basically what we do is we take the valid ones, and then we put that into a specific campaign. And then we also take the catch-alls and we run it through bounce ban, which is like catch-all verification. And you want to go ahead and just take all the deliverable catch-alls and you want to upload them into a specific campaign. So you can kind of have one campaign for your normal valids, and then for your catch-all valids you have another one, just so you can kind of track it, because sometimes catch-all valids will have a higher bounce rate. So it's good to kind of track that separately, and then be able to maybe pause it if it gets too high at any point. Also, I recommend removing all ESGs, which is basically like email security gateways, such as Mimecast and Proofpoint and things like that. In my opinion, there's really no reason to even send to these kinds of email accounts unless you're really like focused on targeting enterprise and it's kind of inevitable. Because they're typically just going to bounce from the email server, especially on Mimecast, I've found. So we just kind of remove them from all campaigns. Now, the way that you identify any email accounts that are using ESGs, you can do that through a variety of tools. Instantly. .ai has a feature for that, so you can actually check that and remove them. So if you want to basically have a team like do everything I've mentioned so far, like come in, build a system for you, manage it end to end, then you can check out the link in the description to book a call with me. Or if you're running your infrastructure already, I'm happy to take a look at it and kind of see if there are any deliverability bottlenecks. With that out of the way, the next part is copywriting for optimal deliverability. So you want to basically write emails that sound friendly and natural, because if you get a lot of negative reactions from prospects, it can often lead to spam reports. And I've even like seen this with myself. If I receive an email and it's kind of rude or demanding or something like that, I tend to report it to spam just because I don't want to have that in my inbox. And so it's kind of like you need to put yourself in the position of the prospect and say, would I actually find this email polite? Would I find it friendly? Would I like, is this a person I would like report to spam essentially? Because if you come, if you have like a smiling profile picture and you have a friendly message, you can already see how you're less likely to actually report that individual to spam. And so your deliverability is actually going to be higher if you do that and you come across more friendly and approachable, or whatever kind of word you want to use. So I recommend doing that, and then also spin taxing your emails heavily. So just applying a lot of spin tags. If you're not familiar with spin tags, it's essentially where you have like randomized words in the email. So instead of saying hello first name, you might say hi, hey, hello, and then the sending tool basically randomizes which one of those words will ultimately be used in the final email for any given prospect. And that's going to like add some, it's going to make the sending pattern look more natural, because now you're sending specific emails every time. You're not sending the exact same email. So you want to do that. There's a built-in feature for this on Instantly. You can also just use Claude or ChatGPT to create the spin tags. So you want to do that, and you want to really have a high number of variations, because the higher the number of variations, obviously the more different the emails are going to look. So you want to do that not only to the main copy, but also to the subject line and the signature. Because if you have like any specific words that are repeated in every single email, then that can actually lead to you landing in spam. So for example, if you're sending your mobile number in the signature every single time, then the mobile number can actually start to trigger the spam filters, because it sees that it's being sent again and again and again from the same email infrastructure. So you want to kind of mix it up. You want to have different signatures every time. You want to have a different subject line, different email body. So this is all important to do. Now, the last thing here will be around the monitoring. So this is how you want to basically monitor your email deliverability and know when to actually act. So the first thing here is don't rely on open rate tracking. Whenever I speak with the sales team, one of the first things they tell me about is their open rate. And already there, they've kind of lost me, because I don't think it's an accurate metric. And also it's just going to destroy your email deliverability if you even have the open rate tracking pixel inside of the email. So you want to really track reply rates, which is the most important metric in terms of deliverability. So you want to track the reply rate on a domain level to be able to identify actual email deliverability performance. You also want to monitor your domains against public blacklists regularly. So if you get listed on some of the larger blacklists, this of course is also something you have to act on. That email is not going to really land at all if that is the case. So basically when this happens, so either you have a massive drop in reply rate on a specific domain, or it gets on a public blacklist, then you basically want to just rotate that domain with a new one. So you want to acquire a new domain and then set up new accounts on that, so you can kind of reset the infrastructure from there. And you might say, well, then I'm going to have lower volume. But what you can do is whenever you have a domain that's struggling, you can remove it, and then you can add more volume or send more emails from the domains that are performing really well. So it kind of balances out, and then you have time to basically rotate that particular domain. Now, in terms of the targets, we often aim for above a 0.8% human reply rate. So that would be excluding out of office and automated responses. That's kind of a good place to be. I would say. But yeah, the out of offices and the automated responses are also a positive indication most of the time, because it does show that you're inboxing. So you can also sort of take that into consideration when you're monitoring email deliverability. So this is basically the full kind of system we have here at Scale Sprints. Obviously, I've not went into super high detail because a lot of this is quite complicated. But this is kind of some of the most important things you need to know when it comes to optimizing email deliverability. So if you want to work with the team and you want us to take care of all of this and build a fully optimized email deliverability system to be able to send out thousands of emails to your ideal buyers, to get more deals, get a lot more sales calls, if you want that, then you can check out the link in the description, scalesprint.io, and we can have a quick chat. So thanks for watching and have a good day.